Well, I would like to start off by saying that this week's episode of Raw kind of fucked this video over royally. Not that I'm saying the show was terrible or anything, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. There was it was a show that had a lot of bad stuff on it, but also had a lot of good stuff on it that was worth talking about. So overall, it balanced out okay. But something that they did on the show kind of fucked this video over. It's kind of like that episode of South Park right after the '08 presidential election, where you just knew that they spent the whole week working on this episode under the assumption that Obama was going to win. And try to picture that episode if McCain had shocked the world and actually won that election, and Matt and Trey were stuck with that episode where they had made it under the assumption that Obama was going to win. Try to imagine that. That's kind of what Raw did to this video, where I had this whole topic that I was going to do, and I had the whole thing mapped out in my mind, and then Raw did something that kind of fucked the whole thing to hell. So now I'm like, do I still want to do this video or not? Because I still think it's at least somewhat kind of sort of interesting. But then I decided, just fuck it. I'll go ahead and do it. even though Raw kind of ruined me. But yeah, I apologize for the new look. It might be startling to you. I know I look like I'm going for a big boss man type look. Actually what I'm going for is John Cena in the Star Trek Mirror World, where, in the Mirror World, that version of Cena would actually be cool. That's, that's the thing there. But basically what I wanted to talk about were the Aces and Eights and the Shield, and how they were going to play roles in both Lockdown and WrestleMania, respectively. And how I thought Lockdown and WrestleMania were going to have very similar endings, although I don't think that's the case anymore. Again, thanks to what happened on Raw. But basically, I just wanted to talk about the two factions and the roles that they're going to play at the major pay-per-views, and some things that they might do, some things that I think they're going to do, and whatever. And I'm not doing this as a way to say, some TNA fans might say that the Shield is a total ripoff of the Aces and Eights. I don't necessarily believe that. I just think it's... I actually give both factions credit for kind of reinvigorating the stable, at least a little bit. Because I got to a point where I was like, especially after Immortal took place, and after we went through the whole Nexus thing, where Nexus just wouldn't die. It went on for about a year after it was hot. It just wouldn't die. And I'm just like, no more. And that was weird. We just had an electrical surge. That's weird. Yeah, okay. The house is haunted. Ooh. Anyway. Yeah, after those things happened, I was kind of like, you know what, no more stables. When Bobby Roode became champion, and I think when CM Punk turned heel, people were talking, it's like, oh, they should have their own stables again, or whatever. And Roode should have his own stable surrounding him. And I was like, no more stables, because it's just going to be the same old bullcrap we've been force-fed for pretty much going back to the Monday Night Wars period. Every time they do a stable, it's always either an NWO ripoff, and Lord knows TNA's done lots of those, from the Main Event Mafia to... Actually, the Main Event Mafia was kind of it was this weird hybrid of both the Four Horsemen and the NWO. But it's like, it's either a Four Horsemen ripoff or it's an NWO ripoff. And TNA's done a lot of those, from Planet Jarrett to... I remember in the early days they had Sports Entertainment Extreme. They had Immortal, the Main Event Mafia, the Angle Alliance, the Christian Coalition. There's always some stable that's kind of ruling the show. And that's... TNA kind of sort of got out of that once Bobby Roode was champion, and I was grateful for it because it kind of freshened things up. And it's kind of the same thing in WWE, especially with Nexus, which was totally like that was basically the NWO if the NWO was comprised entirely of Virgils. It's like, try to imagine like a whole group of Virgils, and that's Nexus basically. Basically, it was just a bunch of guys that did not have the ability to carry a main event angle at that point in time. And it even got a wolf pack with the fucking core or whatever that shit was. So it even got its own splinter group, which I can't believe we actually got to that point. But yeah, so basically I was just sick of stables. And whenever there was a stable that could be kind of cool or could do something a little different, like the Straight Edge Society, they never did anything with it, so it didn't matter. So I was just like, you know what, just fuck it, no more stables. But the Aces and Eights came in, and they were different from the other stable attempts that TNA has ever done. I liked that they didn't show up on every show. Of course, that's not the case now. I liked that when people were expecting them to show up, they wouldn't. I liked that there was a lot of mystery surrounding who's in the group. I liked some of the presentation. You know, entire shows wouldn't open up for 20 minutes with the Aces and Eights just talking. And that's something I kind of liked. And I like what they've done with the Shield, at least in presentation. Although I question, and with both Aces and Eights and the Shield, I kind of question some of the storyline decisions that they've made. But with the Shield, I like that they just come out and beat the crap out of people, and I like those camcorder vignettes that they do. I think that's something they should do more of. Because I thought the first talking segment they did, I think they were interviewed by Michael Cole, I'm not sure, where they were just sitting down talking all normal-like. I don't think that came off real well. I thought they came off as very awkward. But when they do the camcorder bits, like the Ledger Joker did in The Dark Knight, I think that comes off extremely well, and I think that's something they should do more of with the Shield. I think they've only done 2 of them, but they're so good. They're really, really good. And I do like the talents involved. Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins, Tyler Black. I've been singing. I said that Tyler Black was like the last major hot prospect that Ring of Honor had that really got me, you know, interested in their product. So, you know, I mean, and Roman Reigns seems okay. I mean, for being the muscle of the group, he seems all right. So basically, I like a lot of the ideas with both factions, and I think that they could do big things with them, and I think there was potential to do big things with them. With Aces and Eights, though, they kind of went through a period where they lost all the time, especially the last month before the wedding bit. And that, you know, you want to kill a heel faction, just have them lose all the time. So, you know, that'll kill their heat pretty quick. And with the Shield, I kind of got this suspicion. I'll go back to Brad Maddox here. When they did the Brad Maddox thing, I was like, okay, they could probably do something with this, where Ryback has to chase Maddox, and, you know, Maddox could win their first match by DQ to get himself a contract, and then they spend the next 2 months with Ryback chasing him and finally getting his hands on him. You know, it's basically do Goldberg and Jericho. You know, I mean, they're ripping off Goldberg with Ryback anyway, so you might as well, you know, go all the way with it. And they didn't really do that. They just had Ryback kill him the next week, and it just kind of put the idea in my head, it's like, oh, you know what? I don't think they really had a plan for him. I think that they just... They ending to Hell in the Cell, they just cooked up the day of, and then they said, oh, we'll just figure it out later. And the fact that they just had Maddox go out there and just, like, show up randomly, even though he doesn't have a contract. And it's like, wait a minute, how's he here, though he doesn't work here? I don't get how that works. But it just painted the picture to me. It's like, okay, they didn't really have a plan. They just did that ending just to keep the title on Punk, and they didn't really think it out beyond that point. And I started to feel the same way about the Shield after a while. Even though the presentation was great and everything, I kind of felt like, you know, they just cooked it up as a way to keep the title on Punk. And then beyond that point, they're just kind of figuring it out as they go. And I think the segments have gotten pretty repetitive with them. And I was kind of questioning, it's like, do they really have a plan for them beyond just beating up baby faces? Is there a real motivation there? Is there, because they keep talking about injustices and writing the injustices, but they never went into detail with it. So it's kind of like, I don't even know what they're talking about. And is it just them just beating up baby faces randomly, and that's all they're going to do? And, you know, they went on for months and months and months. Are they aligned with Punk? Are they aligned with Punk? Are they aligned with Punk? And I, you know, naturally I assume it's like, well, because you keep asking that question, it must not be the case. They must not be aligned with Punk and Heyman, right? Because it's like you make it so obvious, it makes me think that that's not the thing. And there's something else pulling the strings, and there's something else behind the scenes motivating the Shield to do what they're doing. And, you know, but after a while, I started to lose faith. It's like, no, I think they're kind of just making this up as they go, and they don't really have a plan for it, like I think that they're doing, like I initially thought they did. But there were 2 ideas that I came up with for both the Aces and Eights and the Shield to kind of give them that spark and kind of liven them up and give them some kind of a payoff to them actually being there. And I'll start with the Aces and Eights, since I think this ending is going to happen, especially after reading the UK spoilers. So spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, if you don't want to have Impact spoiled for you. Bully Ray is, through some roundabout, confusing way that I couldn't even decipher from the spoilers. By the way, the spoilers weren't very descriptive, so I'm going to watch these shows to kind of figure out where everything falls, and hopefully it makes more sense when I watch it on TV. But through some roundabout, crazy way, Bully Ray's going to be named a #1 contender at Lockdown. Apparently he won Hulk Hogan over or something, and now it's like, all right, you get the title shot. Which, to be honest, I think Bully Ray deserves that main event spot, by the way. I never thought I would say that, but Bully Ray has been so good as a single star. Again, never thought I would ever hear this sentence come out of my mouth. But I was like, you know what? They might want to consider putting the title on him because he's really, really good. I mean, he really, really is good. And I remember last year when there was talk that there were problems with his contract and they were negotiating and doing whatever to try and keep Bully Ray on board. I remember saying, it's like, they can't afford to lose him. He's too good. I mean, they really can't afford to lose him. He's too much of a huge part of the show, and he's actually good in his role. Again, I never pictured that for Bully Ray at all. I just figured he'd be a tag team guy forever, and once Team 3D, once that well ran dry, which it did years ago, quite honestly, even before they broke up, I thought he was just going to flounder as a singles guy, and then he'd be done. Same thing for Devon. And Devon hasn't quite flourished the way Bully Ray has, but he's okay. But Bully Ray, I mean, he's been one of the best parts of the show from time, depending on what they give him. But I mean, he can go out there and pretty much just do it all. He can be a face, heel. He can work a great match. I mean, he's just great. So it's like, okay, why not give him the belt? And at least give him this main event opportunity. I think it's really cool. But based on what I could gather from the spoilers, and based on this idea that's kind of been in my mind since Bound for Glory and even before that, Bully Ray is probably the one pulling the strings with the Aces and Eights, and everything that's happened has kind of been a way for Bully to kind of win Hogan's approval, being Sting's tag team partner, trying to get in with his family by marrying his daughter, gaining sympathy after having the wedding broken up and all that stuff. It kind of feels like he's trying to manipulate, and again, I'm just guessing, they could do something where he's like pulling the strings and manipulating the series of events to get the title shot, and once he gets the title shot, and then he'll win the belt from Jeff, the Aces and Eights will have the World Heavyweight title in their camp. And I was thinking that even what was that, the Bound for Glory series, whatever pay-per-view that was, where Hardy got beaten up by the Aces and Eights and he had to fight Bully Ray injured, and I was thinking it's like they probably could have done that there. And it's almost the same situation here. I don't know if they mapped that out or they deliberately planned that, probably not. But based on the way the spoilers kind of played out and Bully just kind of got the #1 contender spot, it makes me think it's like, oh, well, maybe he's in charge of the Aces and Eights and everything was just done to ensure that he gets that title shot and kind of win Hogan's trust and win all that stuff. And then Lockdown will end with Bully Ray aligning with the Aces and Eights and getting the title and standing tall, and that'll be your big ending. And I think that'd be a really good way to go. I think that would give the Aces and Eights like the spark that they need to really kind of overcome all these losses that they've been having lately. And guys like Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff aren't exactly like major shocks or anything that are really going to bolster the stable. So I think Bully Ray would be a good way to go, and I think they are going to do it. Again, maybe I'm just assuming a heel turn when none is coming, but I do think that would be the more interesting angle to go with. And then there's the Shield, and I was thinking about this, again, before Raw happened this week. I was kind of thinking to myself, I was like, have they ever attacked John Cena? I haven't noticed that they have. And somebody told me, it's like, they did have a brief scuffle once, but not like, they didn't majorly beat Cena down the way that they have, like, Sheamus and Ryback and Randy Orton and The Rock and a lot of the other baby faces. And it just kind of made me think, what if Cena's the one behind the Shield? Like, what if he's having the Shield kind of take out all the competition in a way to make it look like it's Punk doing it, to take the suspicion off of him, and then ultimately when he faces Rock at WrestleMania, the Shield helps him win, and then WrestleMania will end with the Shield and John Cena standing tall. And it kind of made me think, it's like, could they do that? I mean, that'd be interesting. Because like I said, John Cena basically is a heel now. I mean, you can't convince me otherwise. You can say, okay, WWE can say he's a babyface, and they can say that the kids love him, but I look at him, all I see is kind of a prick, and kind of a douche, and kind of a boring character that is not really all that likable. I've already called him Metro Man, for those of you that saw Megamind. Another comparison that was brought up to me, for those of you who have seen Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, he's Captain Hammer. That's John Cena's character. That's how I would sum up John Cena's character in a nutshell right now. He's Captain Hammer. He's that, you know, the universe portrays him as a babyface, but as the audience, we can kind of see him as the douchebag and the dick that he kind of is, especially during things like the feud with Ziggler. And, you know, some ways he just kind of acts like a bully. He's, while portraying this image that he's this role model for kids and everything, it just comes off as kind of phony. So, and basically, he's Hogan in mid-90s WCW, where it was just, he wins all the time. We're sick of this character. And it's getting to be that point where it's time to kind of pull the trigger and do the heel turn. And it's been that way for years, quite honestly. I know it's a risky move to do that because, you know, you would do something like that with the intent of hopefully pulling in a new audience like the NWO did. The problem is, are you going to lose the kid audience that Cena, you know, that holds on to? I don't know. Personally, I think it's like, is it really? I mean, Sheamus basically is the same thing. So would it be hard to put Sheamus in the Cena spot and let Cena be the mega heel? I don't know. I think it would make Cena vastly more interesting, and it would give the Shield kind of that payoff that they need. Because, like I said, I've kind of felt like there was no direction for them, and they were just kind of making things up as they go. Well, then we get to Raw this week. They beat up Cena, and I'm like, oh, well, there goes that. Which I guess they could, you know, backtrack on that and say that was just a ruse or whatever. Cena just took the fall for the sake of keeping his cover. I don't know. They could go back on things like that, you know, like at the drop of a hat. I remember when Rock won the title in '98 when he turned heel and joined up with Vince. You know, the entire month of television before the Survivor Series was Vince trying to screw The Rock over. So everything was just a smokescreen to cover up the fact that Rock was his corporate champion. So I guess they could backtrack on that. But when they did the thing where they showed the video footage where Paul Heyman revealed himself to be the one paying off the Shield, I was kind of like, oh, that's your revelation. And it's like, oh, yeah. Oh, well. I felt like it was kind of lazy. Not that, you know, the ending with Brock was really cool. The stuff where CM Punk was acting angry and pissed off in his interaction with The Rock, that was awesome. I thought Punk was the MVP of the night. I thought he stole the show. So it's not like it was a completely horrible segment or anything, but I just kind of felt like, you know, for a while now, I've kind of felt like you didn't have much of an idea for them or much of a revelation or much of a plan. And this show kind of confirmed it. It was like, oh, see, that thing that we've been saying for the last month, it was like, is CM Punk and Paul Heyman behind the Shield? It's like, oh, what? And it just makes me think that you're not going to do that. And then you just turn around and just kind of a lazy way. It's like, oh, yeah, they were together the whole time. And that was the whole point of the Shield. And I'm like, oh, all right. It almost kind of reminds me of when they did the whole thing. Is like, who sent the text? Who sent the text to Kevin Nash to give him the order to attack CM Punk? And turns out it was like Nash sent it to himself. Kind of a lame revelation to your mystery, but all right. Okay. So the whole Cena standing tall with the Shield thing, probably not going to happen at WrestleMania now, even though I was kind of working myself up to it, because I was like, you know what? The Shield hasn't attacked him. They keep saying it's Punk behind it, when it, you know, because they're saying that, it just makes me think that's not the case. I don't know. It just kind of made me think that they had something else. Maybe they had something else in mind, and maybe, and also that would make Cena Rock 2 kind of a little bit more interesting, if nothing else, is that you would have that ending with Cena turning heel and aligning with the Shield. But I guess they're not doing that, so, you know, it is what it is. But I was just thinking, you know, things that they need to have some kind of a big, you know, spark for both the Shield and the Aces and Eights, and I was just trying to come up with ways at big pay-per-views to kind of liven them up and give them a huge payoff in some big way, and put them in squarely as the major heel focus of their shows in a big way that's actually significant. And that was basically the whole point of this video. It's unfortunate that Raw kind of ruined my idea, and I don't think it's going to happen, but hey, what can you do? So, yeah, that's it. I'll see you all next week. I'll have a video lined up for you, and that's it. So, later, everybody. Now, before I go, I did want to say something about the Super Bowl, which is coming up this Sunday, and obviously I'm a huge football fan. I really get into the Super Bowl every year, and I've covered it pretty extensively the last 2 years. Obviously, I did last year because of who won it. But my Giants aren't in it this year, and because of time restraints, I didn't really have time to do like a big analysis of the Super Bowl like I've done the last 2 years. But that's not to say I'm not excited for it. So I do expect a good game out of these two teams. Obviously, I want to offer my congratulations to the Baltimore Ravens. I was really happy they beat New England, by the way. And the San Francisco 49ers. And it's really cool what Coach Harbaugh has done with that team. Taking what to me was a legendary franchise in my childhood that really hit a major slump in the 2000s. And for them to come back and make it back to a Super Bowl in just 2 years under this new head coach, I think is marvelous and it's fantastic. So, yeah, congratulations to both teams for making it. Congratulations to their fans. I hope you're excited. You should be whenever your team's in the Super Bowl. It is a lot of fun. And here's hoping for a great game. I know I'm going to be excited for it, and I'm going to be drinking plenty of beer and eating plenty of fried chicken, hoping for some great football. So here's hoping to a great game. And, yeah, for all the football fans out there, enjoy the Super Bowl, man. It's going to kick ass.